Hey there, Nikki Antic. Sharing some thoughts on vocational training in Canada. I can certainly appreciate that Charest and Kritov have used the term a poor second cousin in a well educated family. However, when truly finishing up this chapter, I feel as though it resembles a child in the middle of a custody battle. You have federal and provincial, much like a mother and father trying to co parent and raise their baby. And truly, a lot gets lost in translation because there's a lack of communication. Um, it's wild to think that there's not a different way of doing things and that this has been on the table for a long time. I mean, truthfully, my thoughts are, and again, I'm not overly keen on following politics if I'm being fully transparent. However, could we not just run vocational training as well as traditional academic schools like a business? At the end of the day, the federal, from my understanding, kind of has the upper hand. So why not consider it as though the federal government is the owner of this business and allow the provincial governments to work more so as the manager of the business? To have one encompassing, overseeing set of standards and criteria, and have the provincial, in their own right, fulfill the needs, requests of the federal government, if that makes sense. I feel as though there's likely some type of, I don't know, commissioner or committee, whatever you might call it. I know that at one point it referenced, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor. And when it comes to vocational training, there really isn't, neither one of them at the same time will take ownership totally of vocational training and how it should be facilitated, organized, and all that good stuff. But why not create an additional body of governance that caters specifically to vocational training, because it is such a major player in our workforce, our economy, everything. And what's interesting, probably the quote that kind of most took me by surprise was on page 59, where they had stated that skilled workers drawn from other countries represented 70% of net labor force growth between 1991 and 2001. And it says this proportion may increase to 100% by 2011, which was from Statistics Canada in 2001. Now, that's shocking. We have a large amount of population. We have unemployment rates, and yet we seek our immigrants to fulfill our void. And that's not to say that I don't appreciate them, and, they are often hard workers, but it also states, many of these skilled workers hold university, college, or professional credentials from their countries of origin. And that was a quote from Chui and Zietsma in 2003. We have highly credited people that are on the workforce, in our labor force, yet, we keep pushing and pushing university degrees, and I would really love to see a reevaluation of the numbers when it references your percentage of employment rates when having a university degree, because quite frankly, I know a number of people that have multiple university degrees and they're not doing anything with them. And I think that sometimes you have to completely demolish and level out what's existing before you can build something new. And that may be what kind of needs to happen here. The framework of what's been built should make sense, but it's not effective. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And it's been on the table that there's flaws and errors to our system for a really long time. And I firmly believe that there needs to be a restructuring of what's considered necessary qualifications and criteria met. It's interesting, through this whole university process, there was something I had stated to another professor, Tim Teagues, in terms of having good grades. And his response was, but did you actually learn? Do you really truly understand it? And quite frankly, there's a lot of what we've been doing that we've been going through at such a rapid pace that, I'm fulfilling the requirements of what's needed on a weekly basis, but truly there's plenty of it that I have not had the time to truly digest due to the rate and speed and I guess lack of time to really dive in. But I mean, we're all adults in this course, we have families, we have jobs, many of us, we have elderly that we're taking care of, we have lots on the roster. I won't get into it at the moment. And I appreciate this program truly for what it is. However, just because someone fulfills what one person has deemed the requirements to move on to the next level, I don't think that there's always a deep degree of understanding. I've worked in numerous positions where the higher ups didn't have much between here, and they were making wonderful wages to run a Zoom meeting. I just don't understand it, and the challenge of bringing over a degree from another country and then being put on a labor force it's shocking, that we don't allow some form of challenging to the qualifications, if you will. I, in fact, know a Canadian woman who was living in British Columbia, and she took her degree to become a psychologist out in British Columbia. And it was more of like a private college or university, or training facility. I don't know exactly what type of facility, but she went through a private facility to obtain her degree to become a psychologist. And she was working as a full-time psychologist in British Columbia. And a tragedy happened in her life which brought her back to Ontario to be closer to her family. And it is wild that her credentials from British Columbia do not translate to Ontario. And this woman's working on a chicken farm. A psychologist is working on a chicken farm because the institution that gave her her credentials had closed down, and there's no one to reach out to get all this documentation. So she's working on a chicken farm. And she was already in Canada practicing, and there's records of it. And I'm just astounded that there is not a unison governance over how this all works. I firmly believe that our federal government should be the ones to work with industry and unions and, the workforce, and work with the institutions to kind of really create a curriculum, in essence. But also, they should be the keeper of records, because it's their business. And I think that it should be up to the provincial governments to really follow through with that governance and, provide the facilities. But we really need to stop pushing non-academic people towards academia just because they're eluded with this high-paying job that census in 2001 might have suggested, but truly, I don't believe that's the case anymore. That's all I've got for today.